Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think. You guys didn't think I was going to stop 7 episodes away from 100, did you? Alright, so this week, I'm catching up on a lot of life. And I apologize for the delay between episodes. Hopefully the delay is over and we can get back to actually regular scheduled programming. And on that, I want to kind of follow up on an article that I wrote for MajesticCCG.com. And that was an article in relation to how we get a read on the metagame and where we get our information from and what we do and how we parse that information. And so when we have Heroclix tournaments that occur that are of the higher or of the competitive nature, such as ROC Super Qualifiers, ROC Regionals, and that's ROC, ROC, however you say it, Heroclix Worlds, Heroclix Regionals. Yeah, all of these events do have a certain amount of information, and that is what won. Also, what made the top 8 in some cases, too. So, the reason we need this information and what we can do with this information goes a long way. For instance, if we have a large turnout in a tournament, it's not just a winner who had a good team. Let's be honest with ourselves. The top 8 players had a team that got them to that level. Top 16 players did well enough with those teams that they were in a competing nature. Now, the smaller the tournament that you look at as far as results are concerned, the smaller the area you have to look at. So, for instance, if you have 50 people show up at a tournament and 20 people show up at another tournament, the 20 people, the higher positions, such as the top 4, are probably a better gauge than in a 60-person tournament, where the top 8 and top 16 are going to be teams that actually are competitive in nature and competitive to a point where they're worth looking at. Sometimes when you get into these top 16s, top 8s, you'll see a team somehow make it only in these places between 5th and 8th, and you look at it and go, well, why weren't they first? And you look at it and you say, well, unless they placed against the team that got 3rd or 4th, or the team that got that team that got 2nd, and those might have ended up being a bad matchups. And this is what we're talking about here. When you get a vast amount of information in a single tournament, you have to parse that information, take the information you can from it, and use that to develop what is the competitive metagame. So, as we were saying, if I have 8 players who had really good teams out of 60, and I'm looking at these teams, the reason they're defined in the metagame is these 8 teams won. And you got to consider the top 8 in a tournament winners. Sure, the winner is the one who got first place, but in the end, getting to the single elimination is already difficult. You got to bury your head into those Swiss rounds. You got to do well enough in those Swiss rounds to move on. And then once you move on, then you got to consider yourself already in the top of the game. Now, if you can get past that first round of single elimination, you're even better. And sometimes there's a number of factors in that, because your opponent only gets one chance from there to beat you. And maybe their team beats you, or maybe some other factor, some other outlying factor could have played a major part in it. Ultimately, what we do with this information is we get these small tidbits, these small snippets of the tournament to see what's doing well, and we got to define beyond that when we're looking at this information, can these be beaten? What is out there that can defeat these teams? So when you get into a certain level of player, a certain high level player, sometimes you have to look at it and say, yep, I have to either play this or find a way to beat it, because this is the best. And that's okay okay for a competitive game. I mean, the game is these natures, these deck building, these team building games, these collectible games. Sometimes something just stands out as really good, and in the right hands is phenomenal. And sometimes, sometimes it's just a player who can make something work and can only get there that far. So, anyway, where I'm going, what I'm saying here, guys, is when you're looking at the grander game, you got to look to these tournaments. Now, where do you find results for these tournaments? Personally, I've been using MajesticCCG.com, not just because they're a sponsor, but because they are the first with Rock Super Qualifier results, Rock Regional results, immediately. They are on their site first. They even beat HC Realms, who runs these tournaments, to their results, which is saying something. These guys are going out of their way to get this information. This information being out there is some of the most useful information out there. So by knowing what's winning, we get an idea of what people are actively playing. And in some cases, some people will come to either the same conclusion, or will just be lazy and copy. Either way, we have to look to these teams, to these players, to these events to see how the game is starting to define itself. Watch for repeating patterns. Is a certain team doing well regularly? So this is where we get all this information, all this data that we need to know for the competitive metagame. And this is the best way to kind of look at that and say, well, this is how I'm going to get the information. This is how I'm going to parse the information. This is the information I'm going to use to build my team. Because there's a few factors that you need to know going into building your team once you do have all this data that we're going to talk about on the next episode. So, as always, guys, remember when it comes to playing this game, getting into the metagame, always remember that once you come up with your team, practice is what's going to make that team better.
The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table.
Married with Clix is brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the new premium site with MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. Check the link below, trust me. Trying to remember that from me talking? Not gonna help. You'll get awesome articles at $3 a month, with the first month being free, from amazing writers such as Paris Gordon, Easton Brock, Aaron Cantu. I'm even going to be contributing occasionally, and if you're familiar with the Meta Lab, check out some of Mike Payne's articles. So, check it out again, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders for your look into the minds of some of the greats.